Welcome back to my little petite beach cottage. We're still in the dining room in the kitchen because I'm actually redoing my pantry. Now, when you have a postage size stamp kitchen, like I do, it's as important to add drama and personality and pattern and color as it is to maximize its storage potential. I really think that's important. When I first moved into this cottage, everything was white. And I've lived in over a dozen small spaces that measure, I would say, under 800 square feet. My first approach was always to keep the palette neutral, not to mix in too many patterns, because I thought that's going to make a place that's already small in square inches even smaller. But actually, as I got a little bit more confident in my style acumen, I felt like this was not true for me. Pattern and the right kind of colors. It all worked to create a place that didn't feel flat and sterile. Instead, it felt homey, cozy, inviting, and that's what I wanted for my home. When I moved into this little cottage, I didn't know this was going to be my forever home. So whatever I do to this space to decorate it and to uplift it, it had to be something that was temporary. A few years ago, I fell in love with lining my white pantry shelves with fabric and using liquid starch as a fun temporary way of hanging fabric. These are actually a couple years old. They're holding up nicely. There's a little bit of yellowing because of age, but it's not a big deal for me. I still think that they look great. Now, this fabric originally that I used was from IKEA. And if some of you might remember this pattern, I really liked it looking like a bit of a sketch, an artist sketch. And by adding a little bit of fabric in the pantry, I felt like it was adding a nice dimension and was kind of creating a feeling of an art space in my tiny kitchen. So my idea is to add a little bit more fabric to the pantry on the sides. But because IKEA no longer makes this fabric, I have to come up with another idea. And I found this sort of Scandinavian inspired fabric from the Novogratz fabric line. It's drapery fabric, so it's a little bit heavier, which is exactly what I wanted, 100% cotton. But what's really important is a lot of people are using fabric that's kind of thin, like sheets. And I felt like that is too thin for the liquid starch to be really successful. I think you get a lot of wrinkles, you get a lot of stretching of the fabric because it's kind of thin when it's wet. So when you're looking for fabric, try to look for like curtain weight fabric. So it's a little bit heavier. So the most important tip that you should not skip, you must pre-wash your fabric. Fabric and new sheets and new curtains that you buy in the store have something called sizing in it so that when you buy them, they're very crisp and they don't show wrinkles when they're being shipped. But that sizing will prevent the liquid starch to get in and really soak up the fabric. So the liquid starch might penetrate a little unevenly and you're not going to get the best result. Before you do anything, you're going to wipe down your pantry or your wall with vinegar and water. This will get rid of any grease and any dust, and it will increase the success of your liquid starch adhesion. All you're going to need is liquid starch that you can get from your local Walmart. Make sure it's liquid starch and not spray starch. There's a difference. Then second, you're going to need something to get all the wrinkles out and the excess liquid. I use something called a bone folder, which you can find at your craft store, or you can use an old credit card. That will work. Third, you're going to need a little plastic dish. Pour the liquid starch in the dish and soak fabric for about 3 minutes. I'm going to fold it into fours. I'm going to refold it so the outside of the fabric gets soaked. And then in about 3 minutes, the fabric will be saturated and perfect. Squeeze out a little bit of the excess and then go ahead and install it onto your shelf. The fabric that I'm using is 100% cotton, but for some reason there seems to be a lot more threads fraying from the fabric, but that's okay. Do not panic if this happens to you. Just again, let everything dry until there's no moisture left. You're going to trim off any of the excess threads with a sharp craft knife. Take a little paintbrush and dip it into your liquid starch, rub it on the raw edge, and it will kind of connect and mend all of the threads together so you'll have a smooth edge. Well, there you have it, fabric starched lined pantry shelves. I hope you like the refresh and that will give you some motivation to do it in your own space. I'll see you right here back at the cottage for more small space tricks and decor ideas.